Hi, I'm Dustin Kuhn, fire engineer at Fire Station 35B. In today's video, we're going to discuss driving a Type 3 brush apparatus. We're going to discuss four-wheel drive, high and low selection, locker and transmission selection while driving, ascending and descending hills, clearance and spotting of the apparatus, pumping using the auxiliary pump and the PTO, foam selection, spotting the apparatus on fires, and re-entering improved roadways. As I approach an objective where I will need four-wheel drive, I'm going to stop prior to it. I'm going to engage my brake, put my transmission selector in neutral. I'm going to come over, I'm going to press the locked button. I am now in high-range four-wheel drive. In high-range four-wheel drive, you are not to exceed 20 miles an hour. If I need to switch to low range, I have to come back to a complete stop. I have to hit neutral, engage my brake. I'm going to come over, hit low range, put it back in drive, take off my brake. Now I'm in low range four-wheel drive and I'm not to exceed 15 miles an hour. Okay, we're going to talk about off-road driving. All-wheel apparatus will not go everywhere. So when you get stuck, you are really stuck. Your off-road driving ability depends on your overall driving skill, your ability to think clearly about off-road conditions, and your ability to act decisively. Steering. When you drive, place your hands at a 10 and 2 o'clock position. Don't wrap your thumbs around the steering wheel, as rocks, bumps, holes, etc. will cause steering wheel to spin, injuring the thumbs. Also, a little trick is on your gas pedal, place your foot against the sidewall and you can roll your foot onto the gas pedal and it'll be cause for a smoother driving condition. You choose the appropriate gear for the traction conditions needed for the transfer case and transmission when off hard or improved roadway surfaces. When driving uphill, maintain a minimum of 1,500 to 2,000 RPM to limit possibility of stalling the apparatus engine. It is permissible to run the engine near the red line to maintain momentum when pulling a hill. Approach and departure angles for our brush apparatus are up and down 40% and our side slope is 25% max. The inclometer is located on the dash above the AM/FM radio. The white indicator on the left side of the inclometer measures your slope front and rear. It measures in 10% increments. The indicator on the right is your side slope, and it's measured in 5% increments. While driving, you select into drive, and as you approach a hill, you can press mode, and you can shift gears up and down, and that now in mode will stay in that gear the entire time, will not upshift or downshift. You can use this for going up a hill or down a hill if you need to maintain a good engine RPM. Always be aware of overhead clearance. Our brush apparatus are 10 feet 4 inches tall. If you encounter low-hanging limbs, have your crew get out and assess and limb trees if needed. When there is potential for clearance issues for apparatus for approach and departure, have crew members get out and spot the front and rear of the apparatus. Slowly approach the obstacle and maintain contact with your crew as you maneuver apparatus to maintain clearance. Max approach and departure angles for our brush apparatus are 40% up and downhill and 25% side slope. Use the dash-mounted inclometer to measure and stay within the operating parameters. Water crossings. Avoid driving through water crossings and large puddles as much as possible. If you have to drive through one, have your crew exit the apparatus and use hand tools to check the depth of the water and the soil condition. If they believe you can proceed, do so slowly and watch for their signals. Our brush apparatus weighs 35,000 pounds and can sink very easily in mud. Approach wet soil or muddy conditions with extreme caution. Using the PTO pump, as I approach the fire, I'm going to drive up, engage my brake, put the transmission in neutral. I'm going to grab the PTO switch, lift up, pull back to the on position. You'll have your PTO engaged and you're okay to pump light on. At this time, if you need to use foam, you can engage foam by pressing this button. Make sure your foam percentage is selected between 0.1 and 0.3% from your morning checkouts, and you're good to go. If your pressure is a little low, you can engage prime. You can prime from inside the cab. Sometimes that'll bring your pressure back up if there's some air in the pump. As I approach a fire, to use my mobile pump from the PTO, as I approach, I'm going to stop, engage brake, put transmission in neutral. I'm going to engage the PTO by pulling up on the lever, pulling back. Now I'm going to press drive, disengage the brake. My okay to pump and roll light is on with the PTO engaged light is on. So I'm good to drive forward. I can also engage the foam by pressing the on switch and making sure my foam is below 0.3%. Keep in mind, you should have your pressure relief valve set doing this. The firefighter on the end of the nozzle will be affected quite a bit by your engine RPM. As you drive, your engine RPM will affect your pump pressures. Just be aware of that. Using the auxiliary pump. The auxiliary pump has a panel from inside the cab and on the exterior pump panel. To turn on the auxiliary pump, you're going to turn this switch. These lights will light up. This is your glow plug light. When that turns off, that means it's okay to start. To start, I'm going to press this button till it starts. You can hear it start. Once it starts to run, I'm going to prime it. Sometimes your numbers will fluctuate a little bit. Once it's primed, I can adjust the pressure by pressing the button towards the rabbit or the turtle. You'll see the pressure increase or decrease. Keep an eye on the temperature, and there's also an alarm hill will go off if anything happens. This is our preferred pump to use when we're doing mobile attack operations, mainly because it's not affected by the engine or RPM of the engine. This pump will maintain that pressure always. The end user of the hose line will get a good consistent water flow, and no matter what terrain we're driving over. To turn it off, we're going to decrease the pressure back down to idle. Then we're going to come over here and turn the switch off. And you can also, by selecting the foam button, you can use foam through this also.
To operate the auxiliary pump, turn toggle switch to on position. The 4 lights will turn on momentarily. The orange light is the glow plug light. When this light turns off, it is okay to proceed with starting the engine. To start, push down on the black button which is located just below the power toggle. Once the motor is running, be sure to prime the pump. You can now increase pressure using the rabbit turtle toggle. You can also use your foam with the auxiliary pump. Remember, 0.1 to 0.3%, you most likely will not see foam bubbles. That amount of foam just breaks down the surface tension of the water for absorption. If the foam unit is on and not displaying an error, you should be getting foam. 0.7 to 1%, you should see the foam. When using mobile attack, in an emergency stop situation and an engineer is not responding to commands to stop, use a quick stream burst on the windshield to get the engineer's attention. Returning to an improved surface, pull to a safe location, set brake, transmission in neutral, shift transfer case to high range, and shift back to two-wheel drive. You may need to back up to disengage transfer case front axle. Check undercarriage for damage, especially tie rods, brake lines, and pump plumbing. Check the vehicle for body damage and for loose and properly stowed equipment. Check all tires for cuts, bruises, and low air. Check your rear duals for wedged rocks, and also check your wheels for damage and loose lug nuts. Remember to wear gloves and eye protection to inspect and remove any foreign objects. You can remove wedge rocks with a pry bar or a chain looped around the rock. Thank you for reviewing RT-130, Driver Operations. If you have any questions, please follow up with the driver training officer. Stay safe, drive safe.